Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk about some categories of size classifications that I use to organize my EDC tools. I have several different tools here on the table. I've organized them into multi-tools, lights, and radios. Three of the primary tools that I generally carry. They all do slightly different functions and vary for environment and use. So I generally have four different categories, and those categories are going to be micro EDC tools, light duty or lightweight EDC tools, medium duty or medium weight EDC tools, and finally heavy or heavyweight or heavy duty EDC tools. Here on the table we have a variety of different tools laid out. I have the micro EDC tools lined up here, radios, multi-tools, and lights. We have the light duty tools here towards the center, lights, multi-tools, radios, medium duty tools here, radios, lights, and multi-tools. And finally, here on the left, we have heavy-duty tools, multi-tools, radio, and lights. So let's go over the right side here with the micro EDC tools. So we have a variety of different tools here. We'll start with the radio first, and we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this. We're not going to go over into each tool in depth, but just stop and pause and talk about why I consider them micro EDC tools and why I use them as such. This one is a very small radio compared to the medium duty radio and even the light duty radio. This is a VX7R. This is a VX170R Yaesu radios. So even compared to the Motorola MTS 2000 here, it's very small and tiny. It is rechargeable. It only transmits at about 500 milliwatts on high power with the battery and 50 milliwatts on the battery on low power. You can also power it via a DC USB 5 volt source or a regular AC to DC conversion. It does two bands on it. It's a dual band radio, 2 meter and 70 centimeter. And the batteries last quite a long time on receive for multiple hours. On transmit, it lasts for about maybe 15 to 30 minutes on consistent transmission of high power. Low power, you get a little bit longer runtime. And the reason why this is a micro HT is that this is the smallest type of HT out there in the world. And then kind of hit the lamp over here so we can hear a little bit of dinging. And this one is very effective for a small around town, maybe in a discrete place carry. It works very well. I have a bunch of these in my EMP kits, which are basically filled with these kind of radios and rechargeable supplies and multi-tools. So moving along from the Yaesu VX1R Micro HT, we have some Leatherman multi-tools. And some of these Leatherman multi-tools I have in my kits. This is the Squirt P4, it's discontinued, but this is a plier-based multi-tool with a couple of basic tools. It has a plier head here, some wire cutters, and things like that. So it is a very small but capable multi-tool. Even has a file here with two sides and a third side on the bottom, and has the typical blade that you would find on a multi-tool. So very practical for everyday needs and uses. And next to it, we have the Leatherman Micro here. And the Micro is a scissor-based multi-tool. So it has a very similar tool set as the Leatherman Squirt P4. And they still make this model. This one has a pair of tweezers in it with some ruler etchings on the side here. Moving along, we come up to the Victorinox line of multi-tools. This is the top tier of the 58mm platform micro multi-tools. This is the Midnight Mini Champ. And what that refers to is a LED light with a replaceable battery inside. So it's a quick momentary on and off. And it also features a pen in place of the tweezers and the toothpick in the scales here. And then we have a variety of different tools. Obviously, we have the typical blade that you would find on a multi-tool. And we also have a special tool here. This is a 3D Phillips head screwdriver with a bottle cap lifter and a wire bender. And we have the famous scissors as well. So those are some of the tools on the Midnight Mini Champ. There's plenty more, but we're not going to go into depth with that. I've talked about it many times. Next to it is its little brother, the Signature Light. Much like the Midnight Mini Champ, we have a LED inside of it. These do come in red LED configurations. And we also have a pen here as well. And we also have the scissors and the main blade and a file and nail file. So we have those in that section of the multi-tools. Moving over to the lights, we have the Olight I1R2 Pro. This is a special variant of it. So this is a rechargeable light with 2 modes on it. Very basic, but very useful as a micro EDC tool for hanging off your keychain. I have one of these on my keychain, a smaller version, a previous iteration of that. Next, we have the lumintop EDC AAA. This uses one AAA light, or rather one AAA battery with multiple modes on it. I've talked about this before on a few videos, so that would be considered a micro EDC item. And then finally, on the bigger side of micro EDC, we have the Angel Eyes E5. This is a AAA / lithium ion powered light. It switches battery sources if you want, so it works well in emergencies, has a lockout mode, has several different modes, and as we can see, very bright. And we also have a UV light, and also we have basic area illuminations too with the auxiliary LEDs inside. So that is the micro EDC corner. I use that in my micro EDC kits, and they are very weight efficient versus their size, and they still pack a variety of different tools for different situations. Moving over to the light duty tools, and it's debatable what you would classify these as, so this is just how I kind of organize everything. We have light duty lights, multi-tools, and ham radio. This is the Yaesu VX7R. This is my main EDC radio that I've been carrying for many, many years. I've owned this type of radio for almost about 11 years now, and I've been using it almost every single day. This model I've had in particular for about 6 or 7 years. I can't remember the exact date. I've been carrying it on trails and work, emergency situations, etc., etc., and it has come in handy many times. I have sent it back for repair once with the ceramic filter, but we're not going to talk about that. Basically, this is a quad band radio. It has its own either lithium ion rechargeable battery and or a AA battery pack you can put on that, 2 AA's. So it can be very useful to use. So it does 2 meters, 70 centimeters, 1.25 meters, and also 6 meters. It has wideband reception, so you can do shortwave listening or HF listening on AM bands with this. And you can also listen to AM broadcast stations and FM broadcast stations, as well as frequencies from 1.3 megahertz all the way up to about 999 megahertz plus the AM broadcast station. So really 530 kilohertz basically. So it has a wide spectrum of receiving, and you can program up to about 400 memory channels in it. So it's a very, very versatile radio. In addition to all that, this light duty type of radio, I would say, is also waterproof, meaning you can submerge this into IPX7 conditions. And some might consider this a heavy duty radio. I call it light duty radio because the powering option on it doesn't leave a whole lot of runtime necessary for a duty type of radio. It's more of a use it and then turn it off kind of radio, which is fine. It works well for hiking, camping, and work conditions that I'm in sometimes. So that's why I carry it as either a primary or a secondary backup radio. Moving along from the quad band Yaesu VX7R, we have some Leatherman tools here. We have the Leatherman Wave Generation 1. This is a plier based tool, much like the Squirt P4, but this is a older generation type of plier head. As you can tell, it doesn't have replaceable wire cutters inside, and it's a little bit thinner kind of plier head. I consider this a light duty tool because it's not made for heavy duty use, and it's definitely not going to replace any main tools that I have, but it is convenient to carry for its size and weight. And as you can see, I put a little bit of lanyard on here so I can clip it to my belt loop so I don't lose it if it falls out of my pocket. The same thing applies to the Leatherman Sidekick here. And the reason why I have this is that it does have a pocket clip if I want to wear it with, say, thinner pants or shorts. And it has locking tools on the outside here, 2 of them, a straight blade, and also a saw, which I use for outdoor activities, which I am outside a lot. So, and it also has a spring-loaded plier head, although this plier head is for light-duty use only. And so that is the Leatherman light-duty tools that I would carry on me. Then I also have the victorinox Huntsman light, and this particular model has a light module in it, much like the signature light type of micro tools that I have. This light duty tool also features a 3D screwdriver inside of it, which is very nice. And it also has these what they call plus scales on it, meaning it has a pen inside of it. And I modded this out with the ferrule bar inside the scale where the tweezer would go, and it has your typical pin inside the scale here for poking things, and also a micro driver slotted screwdriver here inside the corkscrew. And the namesake of the Huntsman light is the saw. So once again, I'm more focused on outdoor duties as that's my primary task outside at work. And we also finally come up to a more high quality pair of scissors in these types of multi-tools. So I would only consider this as a light duty tool, not as a industrial heavy duty tool, because it doesn't have really any locking tools on it. And that's a plus or minus depending on where you live, either in Europe or America, where the laws pertain to. But these I would consider light duty tools. Next up would be the Malkoff Devices. This is the MDC BGV1. This runs on either a CR123 battery or an RCR battery, and this is just your basic on and off light. This is rated for weapons use as well, as it has potted electronics inside of it, and it's one of the higher quality lights that I have and own. It's American made by Gene Malkoff and his family, and this also steps down after a certain amount of time, so the brightness level changes. And I would consider this light duty use, as it's not intended to be running for a very long time, like in search and rescues and things like that. It's only made to be used at a specific time frame for a specific duration. Next up is the Skilhunt. This is the M150 version 3. This particular light has a combination of different types of batteries you can use. In here is a 14500 lithium-ion powered battery, and you can also use a AA battery inside of this. So the run times vary, and I believe this one's locked out 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're on now. So we can turn it on in its low mode, and it has several different modes, as you can see here. Right now I'm in the low mode, and you can do a lot of different things with this light, and it's powered by a lot of different powering options. The run times are pretty good for the basically all types of battery modes, but it would not be a primary tool, in my opinion, for search and rescue. It would be more of a secondary light or a backup light because of its utility and the light output, specifically speaking. So that's why I would recommend this as a light duty section, and that light would go in that category because of that reason. It does have a lot of good useful modes. It is lightweight, but not micro size, but it's not heavy duty enough or medium duty enough to output a certain amount of light for a certain amount of duration. Typically, I like to have my medium duty tools versus light duty tools. For example, I would like to have at least 100 lumens or about 80 lumens or more for at least 6 or 7 hours or around that time frame. This doesn't do that or measure up to that standard. It's just my own subjective standard. Moving along from the light duty tools over to the medium duty tools, we have the Leatherman Wave Generation 2 on the table. This one's a little bit more beefier compared to the Leatherman Generation 1 Wave, a little bit more heavier, and it has locking tools. And that's very important. All the tools lock on this. You can access them again from the outside. A little bit more beefier. They've changed. So we have a serrated blade here, much like in the first gen. We have a diamond coated file and a crosshatch file, and also a file on the bottom here. We have the main blade, and they're all liner locking. And we also have the saw, which is a little more heavier duty than the one on the Wave Generation 1. And plus this has a pocket clip on it, which the Generation 1 does not have. So on the inside, as you can tell, the plier head is a little bit different, and I've oiled this one up, so it has a lot of oil, so I do apologize for that, as I do keep it in my rescue bag. But as you can see, versus, say, let's get the Generation 1 out, just to compare real quick here. And we can tell right away that the plier head on the second generation is a little bit more beefier. Therefore, it is relegated to a medium duty use tool. Moving along from the Wave, we also have some other medium duty Victorinox knives. These are the 91mm platforms, much like the Huntsman Light here. I do have a Cybertool light, which also features the latest LED module inside, the clear module, so we can see. This one has a little bit more layers inside of it, meaning it has more tools in the scale. It has a very light duty plier head here and wire crimper. This is geared towards electronics and computer work, so it's going to have tools that lend itself to that realm, which I use with ham radio operations and modifying my computers. And we have a bit driver set inside the tool itself. We have several different bits. They're double-sided, plus one in the actual driver here. So as you can see, this one lends itself very well for electronic work, and the light is in line with the screwdriver as a bonus. And we still have the high quality Victorinox scissors inside of it as well, and the basic pen blade knife. These are non-locking blades, so they are good to go in certain countries in Europe. In America, this would not really be good for heavy duty use, as none of the implementations lock on it. And it has a lot of the similar scale tools that we gone over on the Huntsman Light, the ferro rod, the pen, and the tweezers in the scales. And next to it is a very similar tool. It's a classic. This is the Swiss Champ 91mm platform. Much like the Cyber Tool, it's about the same width and around the same weight. We have the pliers, as you can see. We have additional items that doesn't have, for example, no light in here, but we do have a saw. And we also have a file, a 3-sided file as well in this model. And much like the other two, we do have the pen blade knife. And we also have a backup smaller knife here too as well. And also same implementations in the scale. We have the pen in here. And we have a modification where the toothpick would go. This is the ferro rod. And we also have tweezers in here as well, much like the other two. So this would be a medium duty use tool. I carry this on the trail. I do carry this other one in my pocket as a general urban EDC, around the house EDC item. So moving along from the multi-tools, we have the lumintop LM10. This has a diffuser on it. This is a 18650 light. It has a temporary on. This is Android 1.0. It's a copper light. So it runs an 18650 battery, a bigger battery cell than the RCR 123 inside of here, or the 14500 battery inside of there, or AA battery, and obviously the AAA batteries over there. So what I'm getting at is this has better run times for different modes, and this has a custom Android UI, but even if it didn't, point is the battery platform allows for more runtime at higher lumen output in general speaking. So that's why I relegated this to a more medium duty EDC tool. And then we also have another light. This is the Noctigon KR4 in titanium and copper. This is very similar in terms of its lighting elements. It has quad LEDs inside of it, and we can change the LEDs for throwers to basically close-up LEDs. So we have two different types of LEDs inside there, Oshrams and also Nietzsche LEDs. One for higher throw, the other one for close-up warmer tint. And it runs on a 18650 battery as well. So we get a variety of different runtimes with these two lights. So I would consider them medium duty task lights. And also the sizing and weight changes significantly compared to these other lights here on the table. They're a lot more heavier, but you can get more different brand, weight efficient 18650 lights on the table. Finally, coming up to the ham radio side of things, this is a monoband 2-meter radio. I have a different antenna on here just for practicality purposes right now at the moment, but this is basically a also submersible radio. It's made for the outdoors. It's a little bit on the heavier side, heavier than the VX7R, but it only does one band as opposed to quad band. So that is a little bit different, but it's still what I would consider a medium duty radio because the battery bank size on this one holds a lot more capacity than, say, the battery on a VX7R or the VX1R. And you can get a little bit more runtime with transmission and also receiving with this type of radio. So that's why we considered a medium duty tool. So this is a radio that does 2-meter band operations, but it has a wide band reception. Basically, it does from I believe it does airband up to about 178 megahertz, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I don't remember the exact band width on this one, but for reception, it can do that. Right now, I have punched in the weather frequencies, 162.475 for our local area. So it is a very capable EDC item to have if I'm doing, say, summits on the air or parks on the air. Moving along from the medium section, we have the heavy duty section, or the heavy section. And here we can see a variety of multi-tools, lights, and radio. We'll start with the Motorola here. I'm not going to pick up and play around with it, but it's quite bulky. It has a huge antenna on it. It has a much bigger battery supply than the VX170, the VX7R, and the VX1R. It has the biggest capacity of all of these. So therefore, that is relegated to a more heavy duty type of tool. It's made for basically for where I work and time duration. So basically this battery will last pretty much a shift, which it can be anywhere from 8 to 14 hours for me. And transmission time could be maybe about an hour to an hour and a half, consistently holding down on the PTT. Now, if we break that up over a period of, say, 8 to 14 hours, this thing lasts a little bit longer. So we have the extended microphone with it, which is off camera. It's a monoband radio. It's set up for a VHF setup. So we have it set up for ham radio, MURS, and park frequencies. So basically you're looking at 2-meter range, up or down, plus or minus a couple megahertz. So that's what it's set up for. Next to it, we have some 21700 lights, meaning that's the type of battery it runs on. We have a Cyansky P25 light here. This is a tail clicky switch light, and basically this one is a heavier duty light, meaning it lasts a little bit longer on the type of modes you would have it on. And this is my main duty carry. This is the Nitecore MH12S, and this one has several different modes, as you can see here. It's my favorite light to use for work, and it has several different modes inside of it, like beacon mode, strobe mode. I'm not going to show you on the camera here because it'll go blind, but basically this offers a variety of options of run times and modes. In this particular model, you can charge it via a flap on the outside, USB-C, so you can charge the 21700 battery inside of it. It does come with a tube adapter for an 18650 battery, so you can change your battery source with this. So it's very modular, very effective, and a very good light. I've been using that for almost a year and a half now. So these lights have more options in terms of run times versus the other lights on the table, but they're also bigger and heavier since this is relegated to the heavy duty side. Next up, we have the Victorinox Multitool. This is the Swiss tool, a late 90s, early 2000s version based on the head unit here in the front. And this is a very heavy duty tool. The only tool on the inside is the plier, main plier head with the cutters and the regular pliers and the somewhat needle nose plier here. So it's a very fine-tuned, very precision-made tool. Very premium feel. It's chrome lined. It has ruler measurements on the outside. It has all the tools that you can access via the outside here. I joke around and I call this tool the nail buster because I tend to bust my nails pulling out the tools, which is a con in my opinion, but a lot of the tools have a heavy-duty feel and a premium feel to it. They all lock. And this is definitely a lot heavier than the 91mm platform Swiss Victorinox Swiss Army tools. This is a different type of tool. It's their plier-based line, as you can see, but it has a variety of different tools in it. It has several different stuff. This one has a saw in it, which I've used quite a lot. It also has the main blade, and we also have the file, which is a little bit of a coarse one here, cross-hatched, and a finer cross-hatched setting. And also on the bottom, it has a file as well. And then we also come up to the last piece, which is a serrated blade. It does not have scissors in it, unfortunately, but I'm not going to go over all the tools in this. But basically, this is a heavy-duty tool, which I use if I want to be weight conscious while maintaining a heavy-duty quality on the trails. So that's why I would use this. Moving along, we have the Leatherman Surge. This was a newly acquisition in the past few days. I've tried it out a couple of times, and I initially did not want to get this because of the changing bit here. Basically, why I got this is because at first I didn't like the idea of not being able to carry a saw and a file in my tool. The file is separate from this. This is a T-shank adapter. You can put different types of T-shank tools in this, which makes this a modular piece. Later on, recently, I found out that that is actually a very good thing, and I changed my mind on it. So I got this, and it works out pretty well for what it does. And the blades on it are very heavy duty. This is serrated side. It also has the markings on the side, much like the wave. Each wave has a marking on the side to tell you which one is the serrated blade versus the straight blade. One-handed operations. We have the liner locks here. So it has the four main tools on the outside, much like the wave series. And we also have slightly different scissors compared to the Victorinox and the other scissors of the other lines. This is a heavier duty scissor. So this one's a little bit more beefier, cuts through a little bit more thicker materials with ease, and feels a lot more comfortable in my hand for heavy duty work, which is why I relegate it to heavy duty use. It also happens to be the heaviest tool in the Leatherman lineup and also the most beefiest one. Opening it up, we have the super duper robust pliers here. They've changed this in the third version iteration, or rather the third plier head version iteration of these tool lineups. This is the second version of the Surge, but it has a third version iteration of the plier heads, basically. What that means is it has replaceable 154 cm wire cutters here, both soft and hard. And we also have a multi-stranded wire cutter in the bottom down there, along with the wire crimper. And the tools are pretty heavy duty. We do have the bit exchanger here, much like we have in the Wave 2. And we also have the bottle cap opener, can opener, and wire stripper in the bottom here. And if we open these tools up on the side here, you can tell they are very premium feeling. They're heavy duty, like this slotted screwdriver, for example. It locks into place, and we can unlock it if we want and pull it back in. So basically, all in all, a very heavy duty tool with a bunch of modular options, hence why it's in the heavy duty EDC section for daily work tasks. Next up is a Supertool 300. Very similar to the Leatherman Surge in that it's heavy duty. I've been using this for about 2 years or so now. It has the same plier head here, as we can see, as the 154 cm replaceable wire cutters, the beefy plier head, much like we talked about, and what they call a needle nose tip and a regular plier tip here. And we have all the same stuff here on the top. We have a slightly different blade here. This is a 420 HD steel, much like the Leatherman Surge. And we also have a different file this time. This one has it packaged all in one, so you don't have to have any switching out bits or anything like that. So we have a 3-sided file here, cross-hatched on the bottom and a single hatch on the side. And much like the other tools we've shown before, we have that same slotted screwdriver here, all in a longer slotted screwdriver on this side. We have our serrated blade with draw cut side here, pretty much the same as the Leatherman Surge. And we have the internal saw here, which is not the same as the Surge. So once again, this is a carry by itself tool and done. So you don't have to carry any extra items, although I do have a bit kit accessory that works with the 3D screwdriver here that fits onto it and allows it to use the proprietary bits that Leatherman sells. So this is a very hefty tool, much like the Leatherman Surge. It's got ruler markings on it, much like the Surge and the Wave. And this is a very useful tool to have out. I've used it in a lot of heavy conditions and haven't broken it yet. So that doesn't mean these aren't unbreakable, but it's very heavy duty. The quality of tool and the metal inside of it lends itself to heavy use. So that's why we have it as a heavy classification EDC. So that is all the tools that I've classified in with EDC carrying. So I start from micro, light duty, medium duty to heavy. And that's how I break down my tools. Now, going off what I have here, sometimes I'll combine a heavy duty tool with a micro tool because this doesn't have scissors and I might need precision scissors. So I might combine something, say, like this together. Or, for example, if I need something a little bit more options for tools, a little bit more availability, I'll combine the Surge with a Midnight Mini Champ, for example. Now, if I need more heavy duty precision tools and I don't need necessarily quite a lot of options, I could go with the Leatherman Wave Generation 2 and the Signature Light as a companion tool. So that works fairly well. Even though this has a nice scissors on it, the scissors on it are not the most highest quality in terms of the cutting ability. For example, if I'm cutting, let's say, paracord, these don't do a great job of it. The Victorinox scissors do a great job of it. So there's your different options. But mainly, I'll pair up a Victorinox with a Leatherman tool that does not have scissors, so I can cover a lot more angles. For example, the sidekick here can benefit from the Midnight Mini Champ. And for radios, if I'm using one of these, I might carry this as the backup radio, because this can do more frequencies and more bands, and I can listen to more things that this radio can't listen to. This is also a monoband VHF radio, much like the VX170. So I'll pair up these two if I'm carrying. It's a lot of weight, but it allows me to access information a lot more quickly, which can lead to a lot more faster actions. And for lights as well, I might carry a primary light and a secondary light. And even these tools might double as a very, very tertiary backup light as well. So you have that kind of option to do with your EDC items. And typically I'll carry a plier-based micro multi-tool along with another plier-based tool so I can hold on to pieces together while I'm turning and tightening things in the light duty fashion, mind you. And again, none of these tools you should be using as a primary tool in place of an actual tool. And I can't stress that enough. But going back to all the stuff on the table, that's generally how I think about my EDC tools. And that's pretty much all I have to say. This is kind of a long video. Let me know what you guys think and the way you organize your EDC tools. Thanks for watching and enjoy your day.